It's been a while since I've done this. It's really cool. Evening, everyone. It's good to be back. Has anything been happening with Newcastle in the month or so that I've been away? I'm not sure. Loads of people here already, which is lovely. Lots of nice messages. And really excitingly, I am also joined tonight by not just my dad, but my brother as well. Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, everyone.
So we've got all three of us, and we were working out. Actually, it was the end of November since the last time we all chatted as a three. So you were pretty busy around Christmas time.
Yeah, funny that. Yeah,
a bit funny that. Anyway, loads of messages already. Good evening, Paddy. Good evening to Mark, and who else? We got Ryan, Jim, Benjamin, Morgul, Gary. Good evening, everyone. Lovely. Lots of familiar names, couple of new names, or names that I'm not as familiar with, which is excellent. So basically, I mean, Newcastle United have. The last time I did one of these live streams was the Everton match when we beat Everton 3-1, and since then we've gone on and won quite a few games. And I just wanted to very sort of quickly start with. I've managed to find the graphic I was using at the turn of the year, which was our fixtures in January and February up to the Brighton game. And I remember asking, lots of you will remember this in the stream, you know, how many points would be a good return from those 7 matches? And I don't know, like I seem to sort of think, I remember thinking like maybe 10 to 12 points would have been amazing. Kind of exceeded that a bit, didn't we?
17.
Yeah. And then, of course, we played Southampton as well, and won that one too. So my question to you two really is, you know, did you expect this?
Of course. No,
Well, seeing that I was on that stream with you, and I think I said 10 to 12 points would be good. So, in truth, no. And nobody could have foreseen what has just happened in the last month or 5, 6 weeks, whatever. It's just been amazing. I mean, in all the years I've followed Newcastle, and that's a long time, there's not been many spells to match this one that we've just been through. And it's wishful thinking, wasn't it? I know on the Everton game we were talking after that game, and we were talking about what we would then do with a follow-up game against Villa, and we were hoping that we would beat Villa and then get a point at West Ham, and of course that's exactly what we did. So that was good. Yeah. And then from there, we've just gone back on to winning games again, which is just incredible. And we've put ourselves. I mean, I think looking back at the records, we had 12 points before the beginning of that run, and we were now on 31 points. And now Burnley have actually lost today, as everybody knows, and they're now 10 points behind us.
Oh, you've just spoiled it. We were worried about them. Later, Dad.
Yeah,
you've just spoiled it for those people who watch Match of the Day without knowing the results.
I'm sure nobody does that, do they? Tell me that nobody ever does that. You've got to know.
Everyone does that. Yeah, that's what we all do.
Yeah, I think going back, I mean, at the start of that run, obviously we just lost to Cambridge as well, so there's that whole kind of FA Cup mess, and the Watford game wasn't great because we should have won it. And
that's true.
At the time. And of course, we hadn't won anything really at that point. And you're sort of thinking, well, 10 or 12 points would be an amazing result. Of course it would. But actually, I don't think any of us honestly were thinking it's going to be, well, firstly, as good as it was, or even maybe as good as 10 or 12 points. Because we just, I mean, every week on week, it was just disappointment after disappointment, you know. And actually, I mean, having a couple of games cancelled because of COVID, it looks like it might have done us a favour. Certainly the Southampton game.
Don't tell the Southampton manager that.
But I think at the time, it's so hard when you're in that rut, because when you're not winning, the only thing that's going to improve it is winning. But the hardest thing to do is win, and so it became cyclical. So I
think it's a really good point that you make, Dad, about the feeling after Watford was real disappointment, because we'd played Man United, we'd we should have beaten Man United. We deserved to beat Man United.
We did.
I felt hard done by not beating Man United. And then we had that follow-up game where we also drew 1-1 with Watford. It was really disappointing. And then we followed that up with the loss to Cambridge. Now, obviously, that in the context of this season, losing to Cambridge doesn't matter. And it's actually a good thing in a sense. I think Liam's making a point here where he says, losing to Cambridge was a good thing just so we don't potentially do a Wigan. And actually, it's taken that distraction away from the FA Cup, potentially.
Well, I think what happened here, and it was the other way around, we lost to Cambridge, and then we played Watford. And I was down at your house when we played Watford, and we were listening to it on the radio. And it was 1-0. And I know your mum and you were sat on set here, and I was there, and I was getting very agitated because I just thought we were going to blow it. And of course, you, Dad. We did. We conceded a goal late on. And at that feeling on the night of the 15th, we just felt so low that we'd blown another game, which really we should have won. And we think, well, what's happening? I look back at the records actually, and the games when Eddie Howe's first game was Brentford, and then up to the Manchester City game, that was 7 matches, and we took 5 points from those 7 matches. So we certainly didn't have a new manager bounce in terms of points. But we all had this discussion that we were playing better than the results we were actually getting.
I mean, there's a lot of, and this is just going to happen forever, obviously, for as long as we're owned by who we're owned by. But a lot of fans said, "Oh, it's just money. It's the money that's saved you." But the improvements were in place well before we spent a penny in January. The results didn't follow. The results didn't come as quickly, but the improvements were happening well before January.
It is. I think there's 2 edges to that. Clearly, he had got them improved. I was actually just chatting with Dad on the phone yesterday. This is what we're experiencing now. Isn't new manager bounce at all? What we're experiencing now is 4 or 5 months of really good coaching and vision and actual hard work going into it. And as you said, the Man United game, we should have won that game. We had a bad day against Cambridge, but it's also true to say that the signings have made a difference. That is a thing. I mean, Trippier.
I don't think no one's going to deny that the new signings haven't had an impact. But I think there's been a lot of, there's not been enough credit given to Eddie Howe. I know he's just won manager of the month, but I don't think the credit for the job he's done is there. I don't think
it's come from the national
amongst Newcastle fans. It's there, but amongst the media and the wider footballing community, it's just Eddie Howe spent money, and that's why. I'm sorry, but how many teams go 9 games undefeated in the Premier League? It doesn't happen very often.
It's our best run in a decade.
Yeah, but you could. I bet if you look at all the teams outside of say the top 6 teams, how many? And even you can even include Arsenal, West Ham, Man United. Yeah. How many of those have managed to string 9 games together where they haven't lost in the past? It won't be that many times because it doesn't happen that often.
No, I think the only exception to the media, you've got to single out the Athletic, the local correspondents. People like Chris Woff and George Colkin, and they're being aware and they're singing from what the fans are seeing. But the national media really haven't really picked up on it at all, and it's very easy for fans of other clubs to say, "Oh, well, you've spent 90 million in January." But the truth is, the actual foundations of the run were put in place with what we just said with the coaching. I mean, when we look back on this period, I think there are 2 key pivotal points. One was the signing of Kieran Trippier. Without doubt, the day he walked into our football club, he galvanised. It changed the mentality in the dressing room, perhaps to get us to believe we could win. But his attitude, everything about him, changed. I think a lot of what was going on.
I just before you say that, I'm just going to say with Trippier, just look, we brought in a winner. Like the squad's not full of players who've won stuff in their careers. Trippier came in. He knows what it takes to win stuff and be at the top of the game.
I think that's. I mean, you can look at the signings and sort of say, we spent the most money in Europe out of any club. But the previous 2 transfer windows, we'd signed Joe Willock twice. And that was it. So, it's hardly like, you know, we'd bust the bank in previous years. But the thing with it is that if you look at all those players, there's 2 players in that list that maybe other Premier League teams would maybe want.
Yeah.
So you've got Trippier and you've got Bruno. The rest of them, you've got a reject left back from Villa, a centre forward with hardly a sterling reputation, you know, coming in.
We probably paid over the odds for.
Massively so. And Dan Burn, because he's a Geordie. No one was. Dan Burn's not knocking on the England door, is he?
Yeah. But he's been quality.
He may be now. We'll see. Yeah, give him another season. But the point being, okay, 2 of those 5 players there, but those players have improved the squad in a very realistic way. I think someone has said it. We haven't signed Mbappe, Haaland, and Lewandowski, has we? That's not what we've done.
Yeah, exactly.
We've just signed some pretty decent Premier League footballers.
Yeah. And I think the other pivotal point was actually before we signed anybody, and that was the Norwich game where we managed to. Well, we should have won it with 10 men, but what was key about that game was when Howe switched Joe Linton into that central midfield area, and it just changed, and it galvanised him even more than he had been, because he hadn't been doing that badly under Howe in the couple of games he had. But that game, that was the foundations for
what Howe has done. He's managed to mobilise the crowd, because obviously the takeover meant that the crowd would just automatically with someone who wasn't Mike Ashley, and because there's ambition there. But he's managed to mobilise in the way that Keegan did, where he's telling the players, you need to do it for this lot. Yeah. You need to perform for this lot. And so all the photographs, all the clapping, the flags, the whole thing has just built this sort of thing. So Joe Linton, from a laughingstock to a cult hero. And
I think he's on his way to becoming more than a cult hero. I think he's genuinely one of the best players in the league right now. And that is just an unbelievable thing to say. I mean, just talking about the improvement in players, I mean, obviously there's the new signings that we've sort of touched on, but I put this together earlier, this graphic. Who is improved? Who's the players that have improved? And you can say pretty much everyone, but when you look at it,
the midfield.
These 4 people on the screen right now, they're the key. They're the key to this, in my opinion. And they were all at the club. That is the midfield. Look at it; it's all the midfield. You know, you've got Fraser doing an amazing job. Shelvey playing the most consistent football I think we've seen at Newcastle since he's arrived. Certainly more like we've seen Shelvey being able to play well in short bursts, but he's now doing it over a more prolonged period. And then you've got Willock, Willock was the one a few weeks ago who was still maybe questionable, but in the last 3-4 matches he's sort of stepped up, I think. And really
I think I would say with Willock, I don't think he's improved. I think he's always been that good. I think it was a confidence thing. Whereas I think if you look, Joe Linton has definitely improved and he's learned a new position. Shelvey has pulled his finger out and is working harder. But I think Willock was always that class player that's there. And I think that there's obviously a decent footballer in all of them, isn't there? But it's I think
if you look back to one of the first streams we did, the 3 of us after the takeover, we were talking about which player would be out the door, and Shelvey was high on that list. He was called an asthmatic pit pony by somebody on this. And we all agreed, because he just looked totally unfit. He couldn't run. But Howe actually likes Shelvey and has obviously coached him and got him fit. Yeah. And I think they're reaping the rewards.
Without wishing to maybe preempt future conversation here, look at the assist for Wood's goal the other day.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It was a brilliant.
Look at where he was on the pitch.
It was like David Beckham, wasn't it? It was kind of curled in from 45, 50 yards away.
Bruno Fernandes does that. Exactly. Other players do that people are,
What's noticeable though with Shelvey is we were always, he was always one for trying those Hollywood passes, the pinging the ball 50 yards, and quite often they wouldn't work. He's not doing as many of them now. He's actually playing the ball. In other words, his passing is more accurate, and he's actually.
Don't you think though that's because Howe has a very clear plan and a very clear.
Definitely.
Starting to see, I still actually don't think Howe's got us playing exactly how he wants us to play. If you look at our possession amounts in most games. Still, it's probably lower than Howe wants, but we just don't have those players at the moment who can retain possession. But we've improved so much regardless of that. Yeah. But I think because Shelvey is benefiting from having a clear instruction and a clear way of playing, basically. And I think
I'll tell you one of the things that I picked up on the other day was when he was told, when Ryan Fraser was being interviewed, and he was saying, we're back in tomorrow and we're training. But he said one of the things when we train is we learn about where to pass, when to move, when to do. And one of the things he said is we also anticipate what happens when we lose the ball, what happens where the opposition are going to go. So we've actually got it in our heads that they'll do this if they spring a break on us, and we have to work. And I think we've seen that loads of times in the last month or two in the matches where we've lost possession, but the players have then reacted by getting back in shape or cutting down or blocking or whatever. But that wasn't happening, 4 or 5 months ago, clearly.
Well, the thing about that interview, Dad, was people picked up on the fact he wasn't really digging out the previous manager, but he was, I think, highlighting the difference in the regimes. Like there's not many days off, but the time off they have is built in and proper. It wasn't just, all these.
Sorry, I was faffing around when you were talking there. Were you talking about Fraser's interview here?
Yes.
Yeah. Brilliant. I just love. I mean, it's clearly he is clearly. I think he is clearly digging at Bruce there. It's like he was interviewed after about 3 matches in a row, and his level of kind of contempt for the previous regime was becoming clearer and clearer and clearer every time he did an interview. It was fantastic.
It was down by the praise for the new manager.
Yeah,
it's a reflection on what went before.
Yeah.
He didn't say anything specifically about him, but it was just the amount of praise he was heaping on Howe.
But they were unfit. They weren't able to cope. They were puffing after 60, 70 minutes, and they couldn't keep up any level of intensity. And that
now we're actually one of the fittest. We're now one of the fittest teams in the league now.
We are horrible to play against.
Yeah.
We are annoying. We kick the ball is put out of play we're breaking up kind of passages of play. They'll take yellow cards.
It's absolutely brilliant to see.
It's proper. It's shithousery.
The other night, when I was just on the radio, they said Shaw had gone down in the first half, and I texted you and I was saying, I think Shaw's coming up because that's what Matthew Racebeck and John Anderson thought. And then he was still there.
Just brilliant.
Is that just a bit more gamesmanship? I think, all right,
I think it's right. And then in midfield you've got Joe Linton and Shelvey who are just I wouldn't say kicking lumps out of people, but they're just tackling and they're pressing. And I mean, obviously, Willock's
Joe Linton. I mean, Joe Linton is built like a rugby player.
Unbelievably massive,
insanely strong and big, and like. He's like, this is what I was saying earlier in the season was like what we needed in January was a player who could be a box to box midfielder. It just happens that we had him in the squad all along. And the way he's playing is just unreal. Can't believe it. Let's talk about the Southampton game a little bit more because there's quite a lot to do there. First of all, amazing, just winning another game, fantastic. But I just kind of really wanted to talk about Bruno and his goal because obviously that's worthy of discussing. I mean, what a goal!
Look at Fraser Foster's face.
Yeah, I know. He's like,
I mean, it's remarkable. If you looked at that picture there and you're looking at it, you can't imagine that the ball is going to end up in the back of the net from the position that he's in, is it? It's just incredible. Incredible. It was interesting because, again, as I said, I was listening to the commentary on the radio, and when it happened, and actually it comes across when you look at NUFC TV's video of the game with the Matthew Racebeck's commentary. And when it first went in, he sort of described it as obviously Bruno had scored, but he sort of volley. He talked about it being a volley, and then he looked at it again on the replay, and he said, "Oh my!" And John Anderson said, "Oh dear, how's he done?" It was just,
the commentary is great because then they see the replays, don't they? Although if you listen to the commentary carefully, John Anderson underneath Racebeck, you can hear him saying that's genius.
Yeah.
if you listen carefully, because he spotted it. But just incredible.
I keep watching it, and it is mad. I mean, like even that picture there, he's not looking at the goal.
No, that's what I'm saying. You will never look at a picture and think he's about to score a goal, would you?
It's completely mental. I showed it to my son, and he just made an involuntary noise. It was. I think when you watch it, you just like, how on earth are you doing that? And it is crazy.
Apparently, FIFA have said it could be up for the Puskas. What's it called? The Puskas Award. Where it's like the most aesthetically pleasing goal.
Nice.
So even FIFA have got it in that category. So
I'd like them to add it to FIFA as can they add it to FIFA as a move?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I think going back to the match as a whole, though, I think before the game, I remember seeing the team, and I think a lot of people on Twitter were commenting. We all felt, there's no Joe Linton and there's no Maximum, and you thought, it's going to be tough. We'll get a draw out of this. We'll be doing well. And then, of course, the thing was we went a goal down with a bit of a scrappy goal, wasn't it? Really, when you saw it.
Yeah.
But what's great is they just. And I know the lads on the pod on the Tyne were talking about this in their podcast the other day, was that they never let their heads go down. They just, they just sort of G each other up, they get back on with it. And within 8 minutes, we were level. And the goal that we scored was excellent. I mean, we talked about it there with Shelby's cross, but the header from Wood and his movement for it was tremendous.
It made it look really easy.
Yeah,
it made it look really easy, but it wasn't.
I tell you what, his pass for the first goal last week against Brighton, where he just rolled the defender.
He didn't touch the ball, but he turned
and then played
body,
the ball inch perfect at Drake and Murphy. That was brilliant skill. I thought it was great. And so he's been playing better than it's not just about goals with Chris Wood, and I think that's coming across.
Let's discuss the striker situation, because Peter at the very start, even before the show started, asked this question. I thought it was a good talking point. So he said, when we survive and enter the summer window, should Wilson be sold for a more reliable striker regarding injuries? Before we answer that question, I just want to say what happens this season when Wilson's back. What do you do?
He's your best striker. You're playing.
I thought that the other day when I was listening to that podcast. I'm thinking, because somebody had asked the question, well, what will happen to Chris Wood? And somebody had asked one of the lads on that then, and Chris Wolf's reply was he thinks Chris Wood will be still here next season, and I do, because I think what's coming across with Eddie Howe is he knows what he wants in the team, but he's also got quite a. He recognised the performances players are putting in, and if he sees no reason to change it, then he doesn't change it, and that's what we've seen in the last few games.
I also don't know what he'll play next season, because he's hinted that we're not playing the kind of sort of system and football that he wants at the moment. This season is about survival. It's about getting enough points. So
to answer Peter's question, it's a really good one, because I think Callum Wilson, a fully fit Callum Wilson, is a really good striker. The problem with them is, and we knew this when we signed him, he is injury prone, isn't he? And this happens. I'm not sure. I think, and we said this a few weeks, we need a mobile centre forward, somebody who will pull defenders around and can finish.
It depends who becomes available and who they can sign. As we found in January, lots of teams are going to play games with us around sort of playing. But I think if we're a Premier League team next season, and there's not a lot of reasons to think we won't be.
We're going to be,
yeah, exactly. So therefore, the caliber of player will attract is likely to be better. So I think it depends. I don't think. I mean, like Keegan was never romantic in the wrong sort of way. I mean, Keegan is a romantic, but when it came to players, he wasn't.
He's ruthless.
He was really ruthless, And
there's not many players score a hat trick in the last game and then get sold in the close season, which was what happened with David Kelly, wasn't it?
Get sold. Yeah, I mean, so I get the impression how we'll, want to probably develop the squad, and then certainly we'll need another striker.
Yeah,
it becomes available.
For me, I think it's quite obvious what will happen personally, because the squad, even with Wood and Wilson in it, needs another striker minimum. Yeah. So that will happen. So you're mentioning the January transfer window there was lots of games. That is true. The summer transfer window is a different beast, really.
Yeah, it is.
And there'll still be people pushing their luck and clubs pushing their luck in terms of fees and all that sort of stuff. But the fact is, we'll be a Premier League club. People can see we are the most exciting project in the Premier League right now, probably in Europe right now, and players will be attracted to that, regardless of what anyone says. So my view is that we'll sign at least one striker in the summer, and Wilson will be a flipping good backup.
Yeah.
Chris Wood.
I concluded as well when I thought about it. I think Wilson and Wood will be there because we will need a more strength and depth in the striker department. Yeah. But I do think we'll sign a quality striker.
You're not going to pay
I think you need 3 or 4 strikers in a squad.
Of course you do. You're not going to spend 25 million quid on Chris Wood in January and get rid of him in the summer. So he's going to be here next season.
He's not great.
Like I said, Wilson's got the quality to be a really good backup. So that's my view on it.
Yeah, it depends on who's available. Because I mean, after last week's debacle, Man United were talking about like Rashford could be sold and all this sort of stuff. They're players you might want to go for. Jesse Lingard's probably available. He's not an out-and-out striker, but he's more of your kind of, I don't know, Peter Beardsley sort of second fast kind of little nippy striker. Maybe something like that. Who knows who's available from Europe and the rest of the world. But you totally agree. You need. There will be another striker signed because they won't you can't rely on Wilson. You just can't. But what you will get from him when you play him is goals. The guy scores goals when he plays.
Yeah.
He's just missing too many
games. And the more you create for him, the more he's going to score. And like we are creating more now. But I don't know. Davey put it here. We are winning games without people scoring. With anybody scoring. Sorry, the goals are coming from across the tip, which is amazing. That's something we haven't had for a few seasons.
Yeah,
probably since we came back up from the Championship the last time. We've not had. We've been relying on very few goals and very few scorers.
I seem to recollect that in one of these streams, I think it was probably one before Christmas, that we talked about without a striker, we need another to step up to score. And then lo and behold, I mean, Kieran Trippier started the trend, didn't he, really, by banging in 2 free kicks. Fraser suddenly started finding the net. And then you've had, last week, Joe Linton again with that header.
Shaw scored.
Shaw's scoring goal. Yeah. I mean, Shaw's header against Brighton, and that never really got it was sort of, it said he flicked it in. He didn't flick it in. He absolutely powered it in.
Yeah.
It was a brilliant header. Great header.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great to see. And obviously against Southampton, we had 2 players who scored their first goal for the club. So you've got
score from set pieces. We're scoring from set pieces.
Yeah,
that was so funny though, wasn't it? With Hassan Houghton or whatever his name is, sort of wound up before the match, and then
I love
the goal was created and scored by the 3 players who.
That's what makes football so enjoyable, when you get a whinging manager, and then you go there and not only do you beat them, but your new signings beat them.
Well, you beat them in the way that they've shot themselves in the foot about. Basically, that's what.
And then I love
the can do that.
I love the photograph of the team, which obviously was the normal picture. And then somebody had superimposed Ralph on his knees in front of them all. Brian.
Mark's asked a really good question here. That just while we're talking about the squad, I think it's quite a good question to focus on. So he says, I know the Saudis want to splash the cash in the summer, but who from our best 11, which that's a hard thing to define, but who from our best 11 would you replace? So who would make way?
I still think defensively
we need more quality.
Yeah, we do. I think defensively there's arguments to be made. I mean, we're still playing Emil Kraft at the moment. Obviously, Kieran Trippier would be the first choice there. So another full-back, probably.
Yeah, but then you've got Targett, haven't you? Who's coming in?
I think we should sign Targett.
I think it's a bit of a no-brainer. We will sign Targett permanently.
Yeah,
I want you to pick that up.
I think you need a centre-half. I think I do. I mean, I think.
I agree
it's
with
really
that.
good to have a turnaround in Fabian Schär, and obviously Dan Burn has been just brilliant.
But I think
Lascelles maybe.
It's hard because the players have improved, but ultimately, if we want to get to where we know we want to get to, you've got to be ruthless and you've got to be realistic. And as good as Fabian Schär's been doing.
Well,
is it
You know
long
what I think
term?
the answer to that question
Is he
is?
good enough? Is he good enough?
I think the answer to that question is not about the best 11, because it's not about the best 11. It's about the best squad. And you've got a 25-man squad for the Premier League, haven't you? And that's what it is. So what I think will happen in the summer is a lot of the players who are not getting much time on the pitch. Yeah, and I'm thinking of people like Miggy.
Yeah.
A few
people have mentioned that further up about Miggy.
Yeah, I think there'll be quite a few of the players that are on the bench now will make way for better additions to the squad, who will be then, because we know what happens in the Premier League and in the league generally. You rotate your squad throughout the season, don't you? You have a basis of a team, but you need to.
And that's what we're doing now. But the issue we had on the Southampton game is I was looking back at our WhatsApp, and we were saying the team's okay, but actually there's nothing on the bench. And that was the problem.
Nothing on Southampton.
It was really bad on the bench, wasn't it? So I think there's something there. I mean, I think Dubravka's probably, he might stick around, but I think there might be another goalkeeper brought in. There you go. I mean, I think you got to look at some of the players' ages as well. I mean, like Shelby. Yeah. We can be romantic about it. Like everyone loves Scott Sellers, but you wouldn't say he was better than David Ginola.
We didn't miss him. Yeah, we didn't miss him when we brought Ginola in.
Right.
We didn't miss David Kelly when we brought Les Ferdinand in. It's like that sort of thing, or Beardsley or whatever. You know.
Why does Matthew think Targett won't start? I think Target's.
I think what he's saying. I think what Matthew's saying, and forgive me, Matthew, if I'm putting words in your mouth, but I think Targett will start. But I think what he's saying is perhaps long term, is he as exceptional? Like, yes, he's playing really well at the moment, but is he actually of that caliber to get you into the top six?
He's better than not having a left back, which is basically what we're
great. I love it. I think he's great, and we'll sign him, and I think he probably will start for us next season. Yeah. But then
the thing is, with all this, I think, I don't know whether it was Andrew or Tony yesterday, but I don't want, in a way, this thing of just. Because there was a feeling that we know that we've got all this money, we've got the richest, that we're just going to go out and spend 100 million on players, and we're going to have a big squad of 100 million pound players. I don't think that's the way it's going to work at all, because I think we will do a progressive build on the squad. It won't be all the players out the door, and because I think the team will grow, but there will be 5 or 6 quality additions come into that squad. And I think that's what will happen.
I think 5 will be the max. I think there'll be 4 or 5 again.
You can't just buy in a new team and expect it to then have the same team spirit to understand what's going on. And so it will be gradual. And I think,
it has to be gradual as well because of the way financing works these days.
Yeah, you can't just blow 400 million quid on, well, we might, I suppose, but who knows?
We
need to get the revenue up, don't we, before we can start.
The goalkeeper one's an interesting one, though, isn't it, with Dubravka? Because I know there are people within our fan base who are being critical of him, and I think we had this discussion a few months back. But I always believe that a goalkeeper, if he's got a dodgy defence in front of him, it makes him dodgy, and because. And I think we're seeing that Dubravka getting more confidence because he's actually playing behind a settled
and
who know what they're doing.
I don't know if people saw it because obviously the game wasn't televised, but I watched. I've sort of skimmed through the Southampton match, but towards the end of that match,
made some good saves.
Dubravka made a couple of great saves, absolutely vital saves.
That one at the end when he got down low in the 6-yard box and palmed it away. Yeah. That's a really that was a quality save.
To get out
sharp at the end of the game as well.
Yeah, and he is having less. He is having less to do because we've got more of the ball and we're playing forward.
Yeah, exactly. But again, it's that romantic. You're right. I think someone's pointed out that he's not exactly Edison when it comes to playing the ball out. Well, that's up to the manager, but that's the kind of goalkeeper they want. A goalkeeper's a hard position, but we get overly romantic sometimes about it. Everyone loved Pav. You know what I mean? Pav was a Jordan hero, but in all honesty, he wasn't the best goalkeeper we've ever had. And that's actually, to be fair, I think goalkeepers was the one position Keegan never got right.
Yeah. Do you think that, just very quickly on Pav, do you think Pav, out of all the players Newcastle have signed that you've seen, right? Do you think, I guess Joe Linton might come into this possibly, but I personally. Right. I think Pav is the most improved player we have ever had at the club, because when he first came, he was so dodgy.
Garbage, wasn't he?
He was so bad. He was terrible. He
couldn't catch the
ball. Punched the ball. He couldn't catch it. His distribution was rubbish. Then his distribution became one of the best things about him. Just an interesting side point.
Well, as you know, for me, I have a special place in my heart for Pav, really. So I was he was always my favourite.
I love the guy, yeah.
But the fact that he became a Geordie hero it's kind of the thing that becomes, especially about any club, and it's one of the things I love about our club, that players like that can become, it's like, people like Solano, they still class themselves as being a bit Geordie, you know what I mean? It's that kind of that kind of thing.
One of the great things you see on Twitter is the ex-pros who clearly still love the club. Like Ryan Taylor's always on there, Warren Barton's always on there. Like they've got that link to the club, and they get it, and they want to see us do well, and they know what it's like when things are going well. It's just great to see.
I think that's not a bad some of that comment on the screen there from Morgan. I think it's
I think you're right.
Balance. Yeah.
Remember as well, we've brought in this. Is it Dan Ashworth? Or is that what he's called? The guy.
Will be. He's not.
Yeah, so he's on garden leave, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm sure that'll get resolved. But it's always a good sign, isn't it? I mentioned this in my newsletter this week about the Bournemouth fans' praise for Howe. It's always a good sign when an ex-manager leaves the club and the fan base still love him.
Yeah.
And Brighton are very much the same. Brighton fans have been very much the same about this guy coming into us, and actually they put a lot of the recruitment obviously down to him, and for a club of Brighton, they are doing very well.
More. I mean, his role in St George's Park for England was massive.
Yeah,
as well.
I hadn't realised that until I started reading about him. Obviously, you don't really know much about these players. They're these guys in the background, do you? Often, until it becomes like.
Was he a pro that played at a lower level and got injured early in his career or something? Was it something like that?
I honestly don't know. But Eddie Howe was a bit like that, wasn't he? That's why.
Yeah,
Eddie Howe was manager when he was like 30.
Yeah. So, but I mean, his reputation is almost world class already.
Yeah.
And,
going back to the point that was the 11 meters DX channel said it's there's going to be players available on free that we need to look at. We've been linked with Rudiger this week. I mean, these are all rumours, of course. No one really knows, but the point is there.
It is a good point, and I think that is something in terms of financial fair play. It's a really good idea if you can pick up someone like Jesse Lingard, for example, would be a good idea. So players like Rudiger are going to want to play in the Champions League, and so it's probably too early for us for players like that.
They're too high up.
Yeah. You might get someone who's been at that level, like your Trippiers or someone who might come, or they fancy the project. They can see the excitement.
I was reading a little bit about I can't remember what it was in, but it was basically saying about how Klopp basically targeted because obviously Liverpool, it's slightly different for us because we're lower down, but you can use the same model at a slightly lower down level. But what Klopp does is he targets players who play in the sort of top 4 to 8 teams in their league, like 4th to 8th place, targets the best players from those clubs, and then obviously gets, because Liverpool, I mean, their owners didn't have as much money. They don't have as much money as even Mike Ashley had, and yet obviously they can generate such huge revenue. But they rely on that Champions League revenue, don't they? So they've got to be smart in the way that they do business. So you kind of got to admire Liverpool's model in that respect. And when you look at it,
they've got a world
people automatically link us to Man City, but that isn't possible anymore, really. And really, we need to be doing more of what Liverpool are doing.
But remember that one of the things that we will see grow again is our commercial income. I mean, under Ashley, it went from being one of the best before he took over to then being one of the worst in the Premier League. We weren't making, the commercial income dried up really, which was shocking. So that there's a lot of potential, isn't there, with sponsorship and. Yeah.
And that's why we were chosen, because the scope is massive at the club. I just want to go to Peter's question on the screen. So while we're talking about the squad, we mentioned maybe 4 or 5 additions in the summer. Who do you realistically see coming in? I always say, for me, these are always tough questions because we'll be linked with a million players and there'll be players that I haven't even heard of yet that will be linked with. And I'll hold my hands up and say, I'd not heard of Botman because I don't follow the Champions League because I don't have it. And
I suspect that one of the two names that we heard in January might be on that list, and Botman would come into that category, and that the other lad, what's his name, Etchikiki.
So the lad we nearly signed on deadline day from France. I think that's likely.
Yeah,
I think so. There's a couple of those. Yeah,
he agreed. They agreed that deal, and he agreed to come. But then I think that obviously the kind of last minute move in from France and all that.
But do you know what though, Peter? I think genuinely, I trust what we'll do because of what's happened in January. Because a lot of people were very naughty about, we've just signed Chris Wood and we've just done this, but actually they've been perfect for the situation we're in. And we said this, didn't we? And one of the things you kind of go and sign Mbappe to come get you out of a relegation battle. I mean, you could.
You've got to filter the kind of the talk sport nonsense. You've got to filter that out because so the headline is richest club in the world. Oh, they've signed Dan Burn or whatever. Well, yeah, of course they have. Because
something else, though. The thing that we haven't mentioned, we sort of alluded to it, but Eddie Howe, not only his coaching, but the way he's got that squad united.
Yeah.
Literally,
they're in unison.
Did you see when Willock made that challenge late on in the game when I think was it Targett and Burn went and sort of
it was Willock,
and it's that putting their bodies on the line, getting in the way.
This goes back to the fitness as well, like to be able to do that in the 90th minute or whatever it was, 80th minute.
But the spirit within the group is at the moment it's just tremendous, and I think that is kind of it's priceless.
Well, it goes back to this though, doesn't it? Let me show you this picture. Eddie Howe, manager of the month. But look at the photo.
Team.
I love that. I love that. It's not about him. It isn't about him. There's no ego with Eddie Howe. No. It's all about the team. It's all about what's best for the club. We are in such safe hands with Eddie Howe.
Mm-hmm. And that's why, coming back to the signing the players in the summer, I trust the club to do the right thing. Yeah. And they maybe make a mistake or two. It's going to happen.
To attempt to answer the question, though, I mean, I mentioned it 2 or 3 times. I do think Jesse Lingard is a serious target. I do think that would be an improvement in terms of forward play. I do think there will be a new goalkeeper, whether it's Henderson, who knows. But I think there'll be a new goalkeeper in the squad, and I do think there'll be another centre back. And I don't know, is Ben Botman a centre back?
Yeah.
So who knows?
Just going back to your point, Dad, saying about the players who aren't playing much, they'll be the ones who are moved on. And Davey making a big list of players there. And I think you look at that list and you think, I agree, really.
The only thing I don't agree with on that list is I don't think they've been told yet. I think they might be the ones that go. Because I think this is part of the squad thing, isn't it? And Eddie Howe was talking about this, about it's important the way he treats people. And he may have had this conversation.
Yeah, he's like Keegan in that respect, isn't he? He builds people up and then we'll cut them off when he doesn't.
You look at some of those players. I mean, like, let's be honest, Emil Kraft is a first-team player at the moment.
Yeah.
And we need him. So there's no way he's told him he's moving on.
No, exactly. And that's what I mean. I don't think that...
I agree with that.
These are the type of players who will be...
They will move on. Yeah.
But also, forget that part of it. It's not... No one knows what's been said or what hasn't been said, so it doesn't matter. But the list of players is what I was focusing on, really.
Absolutely.
Those players, if you were to write them down, they would be the ones you would write down.
You've helped the list there, Dave, because actually that's what I was trying to get at before when I was saying there's a lot of players within the squad who will be moved out. And I think that list is pretty fair. I mean, Fernandes is, he's obviously not going to play for us. Even when he's been fit, he's just been left out, and he'd definitely go. I'm not so sure about Lewis, mind. That's a funny one, that isn't it? Because
Lewis will go.
Do you think he'll go?
Yeah, right. I agree with Davey on that one. I think he will.
I agree in the sense that, as you said earlier, you've only got a 25-man squad.
Yeah,
and Clark was Clark on that list.
No, Clark needs to be on that list.
who are the ones that didn't? They're not in the squad now. Clark's one of them, isn't he?
Yeah.
There's like 3 of them at the club that aren't in the squad.
Yeah.
There was.
Well, those was left out of the squad.
And Hayden was the other one, of course. Yeah. So
and obviously, if Darlow goes, which he will, or could be going, then we definitely need another goalkeeper, don't we?
We need a backup anyway.
Yeah.
And that's the point about bringing a new keeper in. I think they will bring a new keeper in. Because we've also got Woodman out on loan.
Yeah.
We get to see if he's going to cut it at Premier League level as well.
Talking about players out on loan, did you see the goal Elliot Anderson scored for Bristol today? Absolutely brilliant.
A few times. Yeah, very good.
Very good. He scored 7 goals for them,
How old is he?
I think he's late teens, isn't he?
He's less than 20, isn't he? He's under 20,
yeah, something like that. I mean, he's
on loan to like a championship club next season or something.
Possibly.
And see
he's certainly one of the highly rated, isn't he? But he's doing pretty well. Mind, having said that, Matty Longstaff scored again for Mansfield today.
Yes, yeah. They still lost, didn't they? They still lost. Right, let's turn our attention to tomorrow and the Chelsea again. Quite a lot to unpack in this one because of world events and the effect that's had on our opponents tomorrow. My first question, though, is quite simple. Is any of that stuff about Abramovich going to have any impact on this Chelsea team?
I'd like to think so. But that this Chelsea team have proven over and over and over again that they are ruthless and brilliant. So I think who knows? It may not be as black and white as this, but I think it may have resulted in they absolutely battered Norwich the other night on the day it broke. But Norwich are garbage, so that's not a big surprise. I mean, I think if we've got a chance to get in their heads, this is the chance. And I'm not saying, because I'm just saying we're an unpleasant bunch to play against. When we played West Ham, I told you this. Issa Diop, was it the other centre half? Craig Dawson complained to the referee that Chris Wood was making cat noises.
I think that was made up actually in the end.
Oh, come on. It's got to be true. But you know what I mean? I'd like to think that sort of thing, the crowd will certainly come up with songs. Do you know what I mean? There'll be amusing songs. There'll be, there's a relentless kind of quality to us at the moment. However, as we said,
the away support at the moment, by the way, is fantastic.
It's unreal, isn't it? I wish I was at that Southampton game. It looked brilliant. I've watched this at Southampton before. And,
when we weren't brilliant.
When we weren't brilliant. Yeah, it's a nice ground to go to. It's quite tight. I have a suspicion it might be the end of the run, because it's statistically speaking, it's really hard to go on these runs.
This is what I was saying earlier, but also my other concern, Andrew, is as we've gone through this run, we have picked up injuries. Yeah. We even had a couple of players cramping against Southampton, and now less than 72 hours later, we've got to play Chelsea. I'm slightly concerned, even as fit as the players are these days, recovery and all that kind of stuff. It does concern me slightly, but with this team, with this manager, with this belief that we have, if we're ever going to get a result at Chelsea, we've not won since.
I think
this would be the time to do it.
Well,
I don't think all this stuff about Roman Abramovich will affect the Chelsea players. They're far too professional. They're far too ruthless, like you said, Andrew. And I don't think it will affect the team. Yeah,
I agree. I don't think it'll affect the team as much as what we might like to think it will. No, what I would say about our team, though, is I'm just a bit concerned, like you're saying, there's a few players carrying knocks. Who will actually be available tomorrow? I doubt Joe Linton will be playing. I doubt, Sir Maximin might be on the bench again. I don't know. But what's really pleasing is you never hear Eddie Howe actually moaning about players being out. He's positive in his approach. He doesn't let it get, because it's part of football.
Yeah. Let's be honest. When
what Stephen's saying, he doesn't do negativity.
No.
Yeah,
and these players are fit. So it's a grueling schedule of games. He's said that, but a few months ago we'd be sitting thinking, well, we're going to go to Stamford Bridge and get our usual defeat. That's what will happen. It's not a guarantee now, and I think this Chelsea team can be got at, and I think we need to. What I'm saying is we need to use every opportunity. So whether that's winding them up, the crowd getting at them, all that kind of stuff, because they're not. It's going to be a strange atmosphere in that ground tomorrow for Chelsea fans.
Yeah, there is.
My brother-in-law is a Chelsea fan. And I haven't spoken to him about it. But it's
you're not talking to anybody.
I think he's gone into hiding. But I think it's a really weird situation. Let's be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, so
it is.
Who knows?
I think tomorrow we will give them a game.
Yeah.
Whether they beat us or not, I think we will give them a good. There'll be a good match. We'll be in it. We'll be in it. We won't be hammered like Norwich. I mean, that's famous last words, isn't it? But I don't think we will, because of the way that we're not conceding as many goals now, and it'll be tighter than maybe it would have been 6 months ago. Whether we can do enough to get a draw, and I mean, as it sits now, if we could get a point tomorrow at Chelsea, I think that would be a good result.
But let's be honest, if we lose tomorrow, it's not
the end of the world.
That's
because
amazing. That is what is amazing. This, when I'm going to go back to this, when I put this up earlier in the season, we then had that thought of Chelsea being that game that was going to be the problem. Then we've got Spurs and Wolves to come after that. It doesn't matter now, and that's just amazing.
Yeah.
Do you know what else? I mean, we've got obviously the game again. So we got tomorrow, and if we lose tomorrow, nobody's going to say, well, it's a bad thing, because you would expect Chelsea to beat us, and that's still the case, isn't it? Chelsea are still, as you said before, one of the top teams. They're very professional, and they've got a good manager, and there's no doubt that they will be difficult. Then we've got to go to Goodison Park on Thursday. Now that's going to be another.
Well, I was saying the
really
other day,
hope we win.
Of course you do. I was saying the other day though, like before we'd had the last couple of wins, like for me the Everton game was a do not lose because of where Everton are.
Yeah.
But because of where we're so I think we're enough clear now. Actually, it doesn't again matter as much if we do.
No.
Lose. But of course, you want to send tiny arms
It'd be amazing to put Everton in more trouble. I'd love that.
Yeah. Well, there was
the next thing then is, after that game, thanks to Crystal Palace, we've then got a 2-week break. So, all the injuries and knocks and things, we've now got another 2 weeks coming up where we can regroup. And
they're going on a warm weather training camp again.
Are they?
Why
wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they?
Where they're going?
I'm not sure where they're going. I just saw the headline.
I
didn't actually read it.
Yeah, it'll not be Skegness or Scarborough, though, will it? Yeah.
It's warm weather.
Well, it's definitely not warm here, so it's definitely not. I think this is a good point. Chelsea fans as well will definitely, and they have. Yeah. If you've seen them on social media, they are completely grouped together, and it's the world against Chelsea. That's how they feel. That's how they're feeling about it, and that's good. I think it could be quite a hostile atmosphere for our players to go into.
Then it could be, and actually, my experience of Chelsea fans is they're not. It's gone one or two ways. Either there are there's the quiet kind of games where they're a bit like it's businessmen in suits, but then there's the hardcore Chelsea fans they're the ones who were chanting Abramovich's name whilst we were trying to clap for Ukraine sort of the other week. So there's a bit of an element with them. So I think it could be quite hostile.
There probably will be a good atmosphere because
but that won't bother our fans.
Oh, no. And I'm sure there'll be times in the game when you can only hear our fans, and it'll be great.
And I'm sure there'll be one or two new songs on service tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, to go back to it, it's not about being negative now. They're a great team, and they've got some very good players. So I'd love to think we'd win or get a point. But, if we don't... For me, getting a result at Everton would be sweet. And then you've got Spurs away, and they look. I mean, I know they lost today, but I don't know if you saw their game. I mean, like they played well in bits of the first half. They look good going forward at times. So again, we haven't lost the ground yet.
Spurs are another team. I think we can give them a game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think we can give anyone a game now.
Give anyone a game now. That's the.
Do you know what? I think I said this to yesterday. The nice thing there, wasn't it, that we are now a proper football club again. We're being run like a football club. We actually go out to win matches like a football club, and and the whole mood around the club is just is just great, isn't it? The atmosphere.
Yeah.
And yes, it's going well now, but it's been that patient wait for this spell, and it's gone beyond all expectations the last 5 or 6 games, as we started off with. But it's the realization that actually we're going to stay up now. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And that we will then rebuild a bit more in the summer, and we've got so much to look forward to. And and I think we're in good hands. I really do. And I think that's one of both with Eddie Howe and the team above him. I think it's reassuring.
Yeah, I just wanted to address this. Mark put this question on a little bit earlier on. Feels like a good time to kind of address it without going into too much geopolitics. I'd be lying if you hadn't at least considered the thought of what's happened to Roman Abramovich at Chelsea. Something similar happening to Newcastle United in the future. Now, the way I look at it is, I personally, I don't worry about it, just because I think the situation is different in the sense that, rightly or wrongly, whatever, it's a very complex situation in Yemen, and it's a Saudi-led kind of attack, but it's not just Saudi Arabia. But the difference in my opinion is that Saudi are seen as an ally, rightly or wrongly, and we do a lot of business with Saudi, and so I can't envisage a situation like this occurring.
And it's not an individual as well, although it sort of is, but it's not. You know what I mean? But it's a wider group, and it's a. So the first thing I said when we again on our WhatsApp was, let's hope Saudi Arabia don't invade the neighbouring country. And there's lots of horrible stuff going on in the Yemen at the moment, which is horrendous. And there's a news story today about the fact that Saudi Arabia executed like 81 people in a day or something like that. And so there is,
there's horrible stuff going on there.
Who knows? Yeah, it ain't good.
Yeah. We can't ignore it as fans, but also I still think it's also there's we're kind of helpless in this situation anyway. In terms of what we can what people think we can do. Like, it's just.
I think you're right, though, in terms of like the Saudis are definitely an ally in the Middle East.
Well, they are. And the men of arms we sell to them, they're US ally, they're
right or wrong.
UK ally, and we sell them a lot of arms, rightly or wrongly.
And we buy a lot of oil.
What do we do? How can we use a football club sport? Stop. We can't. And Eddie Howe keeps getting asked these questions by journalists, and I see that our friend Miguel Delaney was at it again, wasn't he?
He literally works for a publication who is owned by an oligarch. Like, he's such a hypocrite, that guy. It's so frustrating. But
anyway,
I think I think this point is.
I think that you are just they're not worried. I think the bigger
ordinary people like us and everyone who's watching this stream don't hate the idea of war and all the atrocities that come with it, and but like we're powerless. We're not the ones who have that decision making power, and it's a very complex situation, and I would actually recommend people go and educate themselves a little bit about what's happening in the Yemen, because I was reading, because I didn't know. And I actually read some stuff about it today, and I'm not going to go into it now because this is a football podcast essentially. But like, it just gives you a bit of information about what's going on and why it's not the same situation as what's happening in Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah.
It's very, very different, and it's not really the government in Yemen that's the problem. Whereas in Russia it is, and it's kind of, there's lots of stuff going on there that it's worth just kind of. There's loads of articles that break it down into sort of layman's terms, essentially, and it's worth just reading one or two of them.
Yeah, I mean, like the last 2 years have shown that everyone, you can't expect anything these days, and it's a bit of a wake up call. COVID, wars, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and that comment there sums up this bit up really, and we'll just look forward to tomorrow and sit down and watch the game on Sky.
Indeed.
Totally. Absolutely. So listen, before we go, I've got a team for you, Dad, and with 3 missing players. And well, I know you love it.
Well, I said you prefer the teams to the pixel.
Yeah, well, that's why I do it, because I know you really struggle with the pixelated players. So this team is the one that started.
I'll have to put my glasses on again.
I'll just explain why I chose it. We had a bit of a discussion tonight about Eddie Howe and the sort of vibes of Keegan and that sort of thing. So it made me think about the season we should have won the league. So the opening game of that season, who did we play? Remember?
We played...
not Leicester.
No, it wasn't Leicester.
Not far from Leicester.
What was the first game of the season?
It was Coventry.
Coventry, yes, of course it was. Les Fernandes scored.
93-94.
We won 3-0.
Hold on. 94-95 or 93-94?
95-96.
95-96.
Okay, we beat Coventry 3-0 at home, right?
Les Fernandes made his debut and he scored.
This was the lineup.
Okay, so who's in midfield? And who's in goal?
So Gillespie, Lee...
Xhaka? Was Xhaka in goal?
He was.
Yeah, Xhaka, I would have said.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out the midfield players.
So the midfielders.
So Gillespie, Lee...
So Xhaka was the goalkeeper. We got that pretty quickly.
Ginola?
Yep.
Yeah, Ginola must have been.
Yeah, Ginola was on the left wing.
And then who's the midfield player?
Doing well.
Who's the centre midfielder here? So is it defensive midfielder?
I'm giving you no clues. We didn't have defensive midfielders.
Batty?
No.
It was not David Batty.
Keegan played this team, but Robert Lee was the attacking centre midfielder, and it was more of a diamond. And you had a number 4 playing in. Who would it have been?
Who would it have been? Yeah.
A couple of people have got it in the comments.
So Tim Barton. No, Barton's already in the team. Ginola Clarkey.
Correct.
Lee
Clark.
Yeah.
Lee Clark, yeah.
So Lee Clark, Ginola, and Xhaka Hislop. I thought.
I never thought of Lee Clark as a defensive midfielder.
No, he's not. He's definitely not.
When did we sign David Batty?
Yeah.
When did we sign Batty? Was it during that season?
Later on.
Did he come in to tighten things up?
I think so, because he definitely played that season, but I'll find out for you. Bear with me a second.
He's going to pull out a book.
He's gone to his reference.
I've got all the resources.
He's got an almanac.
Let's just run through some people who got some.
Signed him in the close season for $3.5 million.
Nice of you to join us.
He signed for when?
Signed in the close season for $3.5 million from Blackburn, David Batty.
Yeah, I know, but when?
It was in the summer.
So he was in the squad. All right, but he didn't start the season. That's really interesting. So Xhaka, Hislop, well done, Blakey and Mark.
Got straight away.
Got Ginola as well. Dexter got Clark, and
I forgot all about Clark at that point.
Blakey's saying Batty wasn't there then. Did we sign him in the summer?
I'm just reading the thing. Just carry on talking. I'll find out.
I think he arrived later. I think. Batty signed during the season. Yeah, that's what Blakey's saying. I think that's true, Blake. I agree with you. Dexter says Batty came in March, I think, just after Tino.
Was he a mid-season?
Realised it was as late as that.
Yes, you could be right.
It was before there was a transfer window.
Batty is a ghost. No one knows where he came from or where he went. And he famously doesn't have anything to do with football. He doesn't really like football, David Batty. He left football.
To be honest, he's right. He came because he made his debut against Middlesbrough when after Spear made in February. So he actually came there in the season. You're right.
Blakey's bringing up bad memories here, but yes, unfortunately, I do remember Graham Fenton, Blakey. We were there. We were there that night.
Batty was in the Champions League and he had a fight with Graham Lasso. And then he requested a transfer out of Blackburn.
Yeah.
Was that season?
Yes, and we signed him.
Yeah, because 95 Blackburn were the champions, weren't they?
Yeah.
He had a fight with Graham Lasso.
can you please give a shout out to my son Joel Tate? It's his birthday, 15 today. Happy birthday, Joel! Thank you for watching. Appreciate the kind comment. Hope you've had a great day, and I hope for your sake we can get a good result tomorrow.
Yeah, 15-year-olds, come on.
Patty was a crab. What?
Patty was all.
Oh dear. Anyway, right. It's been a really nice.
It's been good.
Turn to the live stream, so I've really enjoyed it. Actually, thank you everyone for watching.
Pleasure.
I'm not going to do score predictions tomorrow because I just think we'll see what happens. I don't want to tempt fate.
The last time we were all on together, we were playing Arsenal the next day, and me and Ian thought we would lose. Andrew, you thought we would get a draw, and we got beat 2-0.
We did. Comfortably so.
So there you go. There you go.
The nice thing is, isn't it, that we're quite relaxed actually, and we're going to go on tomorrow's game with.
It's honestly amazing that we don't need to think, oh, can we scrape a draw because it would really help us. Like if we lose tomorrow, it's not the end of the world. It's just fantastic.
No. As long as we don't make it.
Yeah, I won't, Blakey. I would be back a lot sooner next time. I have been a bit ill actually, which is why I've had such a bit of a prolonged bit of time off, bit of illness, just dealing with bit of long COVID and tiredness and all that kind of stuff. It's been rubbish, but I feel a lot better actually at the moment. So thank you very much. Anyway, right. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Andrew. Nice to speak to both of you as well.
Thank you. It's been good.
Cheers, everyone. See you soon.
Cheers, everyone. Good night.